Hi everyone, Jane here. Thank you for watching today. Today I am going to be creating a double page spread in the Dina Wakley watercolour journal. The main elements I'm going to be using are some collage, and I've chosen to go with the Winter Stories book and the Whispers Between the Music notes. So I had already cut out lots of the pieces to go in this project. I chose winter because the weather here has turned really cold. I think tomorrow it may be getting a little bit warmer again, but it has certainly been a bit more Arctic across the last week. So it really felt that this page was timely. So I decided I wanted to add some sort of circles to add. I'm not sure what I was thinking. They're not meant to be moons. They're not meant to be suns. They're sort of just meant to be sort of spotlights. So I've gone round with not an Inktense, with a Derwent drawing pencil. It's the inky blue, I do believe, ink blue. And I wanted a pencil that wasn't going to move when I added the water to it, because I'm using my Gansai Tambi watercolours from the Art Nouveau set, and the colours I'm using are Cobalt Turquoise, Potter's Pink, Grayish Blue and Beige Grey. I will, as always, list everything I use in the description box below so that you can search it up if you want to find the things, or you can use something similar if you've got something that you could use instead. Now, I decided to add water into the circles first, and I decided these were going to be blue. I think because the theme was quite wintry, and I looked at the images that I'd already cut out as well to give me a sort of an idea of what colour scheme I wanted to go with. So I've gone with the two blues because they are really sort of like got that cold vibe going on, and I decided they would be in the spotlight areas. The colours in the images I'd cut out were very sort of pink leaning, but there was a little bit of blue as well, which is why I wanted to get that in there. And eventually I had actually ended up with a lot more blue in my background than I intended. So once I'd put the colour into the circles, I'm just adding in some of those other two colours, and the circle stencil is just one that I created myself by using a circle die, and I die cut some stencil material, I'm not sure what you call it, sort of very thin mylar, and it was able to be die cut. So it's just one I made myself, but you could draw around, a bowl, you could use a compass, anything just to get those circle shapes. Then I wanted to not make it so stark, the contrast between the circles and the background. So I'm just adding a bit of the darker blue, the greyish blue, into the background as well. Now, as you can see, once your watercolours dry, they do tend to always sort of like dry a little bit lighter. So always be aware of that. Don't like panic when you see the strength of the colour. And I wanted to provide some sort of ground for my elements to be able to be standing on. So I'm using some of this Whispers Between the Music notes paper. I just got the bits that were already loose in the book rather than start a new page. I think all the pages in that book are beautifully muted, so any page would have gone with this colour scheme. And I'm just tearing strips. I'm trying to make sure that I don't have any straight edges, although I do a little bit at some points, and I'm trying to tear them so that the ends sort of gradually decline into a sort of a slope so that they don't look too odd. And when I stuck that second piece down, I sort of had to stick at a bit of an angle because I didn't want the music notes to be wonky. I wanted them to be in a straight line, but then I could fill in those gaps. And in the end, I was really quite happy with how it all looked. So I had positioned my pieces in between to see roughly where I needed sort of like the ground to be. And it did mean that on the left hand page, I do cover a bit of that circle up, but that's fine because that's, the process of creating. I had an idea in my head of vaguely what I wanted to do with this spread, but it evolves as you go. And sometimes you'll put something down that you think, oh yeah, I'll have that there. And then you think of another idea, or you add something in and you realize that that's now going to be covered up. But that's all part of the process. of art journaling, really. So I'm just using my Liquitex Professional Matte Medium. As always, when I am applying collage, because matte medium is a collage glue as well as being able to be used with your acrylic paints, I put some onto the page, I put some on the back of the collage material, and then I seal over the top. Now, when you seal over the top with something like a matte medium, you do get like an acrylic coating. So if you were then wanting to go over the top of your work with something more sort of water reactive again, like watercolours, then you might want to add either a layer of watercolour ground or some transparent gesso over the top, just to create that key again so that you could use those products. I knew I was using products that didn't need that, so I didn't worry about doing that on this particular double page spread. Now I have got this Snowflake stencil. I can't remember, to be honest, where it's from, but it's a generic sort of snowflake stencil. And I got two Chalky paints out from Americana Decor, and the two colours are Vintage and Everlasting. The Everlasting is the whiter one. Now on this bit I just did, I went a bit mad with the paint and it came out a bit blobby on my page and I didn't like how it looked. However, I had already sort of had a plan out of where my elements of the collage paper were going to go. So I knew that once I stuck everything down, it wasn't going to be a big deal. So I just left it there. It wasn't a problem. But I did find that I actually preferred when I used the blue paint rather than mixing it up to make a lighter colour. So once that was all nice and dry, I'm just going in now with the same process with the matte medium to stick all my collage elements down. Some go over the top of others, some, you know, will be put in front of others. I think that's the same thing. But I just go through and add them all to the piece. Once that had all dried, I wanted to add some shading in, so I'm going in with my Inktense pencil from Derwent, which is Deep Indigo. It makes a sort of a much more subtle shadow than if I was to use something like a black, but you could go in with this project with a grey as well. That would probably look quite nice, or even something like a purple. They also make good shadows. So I'm going in with the pencil to start with and then watering it out, just because I wanted it to be a bit more obvious around the bottom of the objects. So I'm just going in where I think it needs it, and then I go around some of the other pieces. This bit takes quite a long time. This is probably the longest part of my project when I'm doing it, but I just think that this really makes the difference between your pieces just looking like they're stuck onto a background to being a part of that background. So I left all of this section in. Now I just wanted to add on some sort of finishing touches, and the little boy that's in the image there, originally before I cut him out, he was blowing snow from his hands, so I wanted to add that back in some form. So I've got this stamp set from Be Crafty. I'm not sure if it's the one that's still available. I will list it down in the description, although I'm not actually quite sure what it's called, but I wanted to add some snowflakes back in, so I went in with Hickory Smoke Archival ink. I debated whether to use a blue, but then I felt that the blue, a dark blue might be a bit too intense and they would stand out too much. I wanted them to be a part of the background. So I went in with the grey, which worked really nicely. I really liked how they turned out. So I'm just adding them where it looks like maybe he's blown some of those snowflakes, and the little girl is sort of looking over from the distance there into the jar that he's already captured lots of these snowflakes into. So I'm just adding in some of the smaller ones, and then I add in a few bigger ones just to sort of create that different sort of range of sizes in the background. Then I wanted to add a little bit of sparkle onto this page because I felt it really needed it. So I'm going in with this Spectrum Noir clear overlay brush pen, and I was doing fine. And then I came to the jar and I decided I needed to squeeze it to get some extra out. Now, I'm not sure how much you can see, but from where I was sitting, I'd added a lot of sparkle, and it was very, very wet. So I went in with the kitchen towel. You could see how much went into the kitchen towel. That's how wet it was. And I then decided to spray it with some water and try to get some of the sparkle off because it was obscuring the image to me. In the end, I think it just depends where the light's shining and when you look at it. So it probably doesn't look so bad from other angles, but where I was, it did. And I'd cut out a sentiment from the Winter Stories book and I'd matted it onto some grey card just to make it a little bit more sturdy and make it stand out, which I stuck on with some Cosmic Shimmer glue. So thank you ever so much for watching today. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, do please give it a thumbs up, and you can also now hype the videos to help them be seen around the YouTube world. If you haven't subscribed, it would be fabulous if you could do that as well. And at the end of the video, you will see a list of my lovely members. These are my YouTube members, my super supporters. And if you're interested in finding out more about how you could become a super supporter, then I will leave a link in the description box below. But until the next time, thank you very much for watching, and bye-bye.